In this video, I will explain how to write your From My Bondage and My Freedom essay. First, make sure you have your literature book open to page 521 so that you can find textual evidence to write your essay. There are 3 prompts. You only have to choose one of the essay prompts. Please do not write all 3 essays. Choose one of the essay prompts. So I will go ahead and explain all 3 now for you. Here's essay prompt number 1. In his autobiography, From My Bondage and My Freedom, Frederick Douglass argues that the institution of slavery not only affects the slave, but the entire slave-holding family as well. In a 4-paragraph essay, explain the effect that slavery had on Mrs. Old and her home. You must include 2 specific examples from the text. You may include more, but you have to have a minimum of 2. For each example, you must use a quote to support your response. Include the page number from the text for each quote. In your own words, be sure to thoroughly explain how the quotes support your thesis. And again, the thesis comes from the prompt right here. Okay, here's essay prompt number 2. In his autobiography, From My Bondage and My Freedom, Frederick Douglass discusses what he learned about human behavior and the institution of slavery. In a 4-paragraph essay, explain what insight Douglass learned about human behavior and the institution of slavery. You must include 2 specific examples from the text. Again, you may include more. 2 is the minimum. For each example, you must use a quote to support your response. Include the page number from the text for each quote. In your own words, be sure to thoroughly explain how the quotes support your thesis. Again, the thesis comes from the prompt here. And essay prompt number 3. In his autobiography, From My Bondage and My Freedom, Frederick Douglass explains how learning to read and becoming educated was actually a source of misery for him. Misery means unhappiness. In a 4-paragraph essay, explain how learning to read and becoming educated was a detriment for Douglass. Detriment means something that's bad or harmful. You must include 2 specific examples from the text. You may include more. 2 is the minimum. For each example, you must use a quote to support your response. Include the page number from the text for each quote. In your own words, be sure to thoroughly explain how the quotes support your thesis. Again, your thesis comes from this prompt here. Okay, those were the 3 prompts. Again, choose one of the 3. And here is how you will organize your essay, no matter which prompt you choose. It will be 4 paragraphs, about 500 to 700 words. In your introduction, first start off by stating the name of the text and the author. Make sure you explain that all or spell that correctly. Include some background information about the author and a brief summary of the text. And for your thesis statement, copy the first sentence only from the prompt you choose to write. Okay. So for example, if you choose prompt 1, your thesis statement will be this first sentence right here. Okay. If you choose prompt 2, your thesis statement will be this first sentence right here. And if you choose prompt 3, your thesis statement will be this first sentence right here. Okay. So you have your thesis sentence statement already written for you. Body paragraphs will be basically the same, both. Start with a topic sentence. Provide evidence with the page number to support the thesis. In your own words, explain what the quote means, and in your own words, explain how the quote supports the thesis, and with a concluding sentence. So both body paragraphs will be the same. And then for your conclusion, restate your thesis. Explain Frederick Douglass's purpose for writing his autobiography. See page 518. And discuss how Frederick Douglass made a significant impact in America. See page 519. Before deciding which prompts you want to write about, look at the essay pre-writing graphic organizer you completed to see the textual evidence you already found for each prompt. Then choose the prompt that you have the best evidence for. Okay, so if you remember earlier in the week, you completed a graphic organizer that looked like this. Okay, and as you can see in this first part here, it tells you on the row what prompt and body paragraph each one is for. So this first one here was from prompt number 1, body paragraph number 1. This one here was for prompt number 1, body paragraph number 2. Okay. So if you completed this and you completed it correctly, you already have the basis or the ingredients for your essay. You just have to go through and choose which one. So I would look at this graphic organizer and then the ones that you have the best evidence for that you think is correct and you have a detailed explanation, that's the one I would choose to write. Okay, and then also I have provided you an essay template. Okay, it is attached to this page in Schoology. Now, this is not required. This is optional if you need help organizing your essay. You can use all of it, you can use part of it, or you can use none of it. Okay, again, it's just a source of help for you. It's not required. But I'm going to go ahead and go through and explain it if you choose to use it. So let's take a look at it in detail. Okay, here's your introduction. You're going to start off Frederick Douglass, author of the autobiography From My Bondage and My Freedom. Then you're going to give some background information about him. In his autobiography, Frederick Douglass, then you're going to go ahead and summarize what it's about. And then you're going to end with your thesis statement. Again, copy the first sentence from the prompt you selected. Okay, so that's all for your introduction. Body paragraph 1. One example in the autobiography in which Frederick Douglass. Then what you have to do to complete the sentence is you have to go back to the prompt you chose. Okay, if you chose prompt 1, this is what you'll write. One example in the autobiography in which Frederick Douglass explains the effect that slavery had on Mrs. Auld is, then you would summarize the example in your own words. Then you would give a quote that reflects the example. Then you explain how the quote supports your thesis statement, and then you conclude your sentence or your paragraph. If you're going to write about prompt 2, here's what you'd write. One example in the autobiography in which Frederick Douglass explains the insight that he learned about human behavior and the institution of slavery is, then summarize that. Give a quote. How does the quote support your thesis? And a concluding sentence. Okay, that's if you choose prompt 2. If you choose prompt 3, one example in the autobiography in which Frederick Douglass explains how learning to read was actually a source of misery for him is, summarize the example in your own words, give a quote with the page number, how the quote supports your thesis, and concluding sentence. Okay, body paragraph number 2. Again, depending on which prompt you use, if you use prompt 1, this is how you'll start it. Another example in the autobiography in which Frederick Douglass explains the effect that slavery had on Mrs. Auld's home, so not her, but the household, is, that's prompt 1. If you're writing about prompt 2, another example in the autobiography in which Frederick Douglass explains the insight that he learned about human behavior and the institution of slavery is, or if you're writing about prompt 3, another example in the autobiography in which Frederick Douglass explains how learning to read and becoming educated was a detriment for him is, summarize, quote, how the quote supports your thesis, concluding sentence. Okay, so again, depending on which prompt you choose, your topic sentences for your body paragraphs will change. because you have a choice of which prompt to write about. And then your conclusion, no matter which prompt you choose, it'll all be the same. Restate your thesis statement. Frederick Douglass's purpose for writing his autobiography is, see textbook page 518, and Frederick Douglass made a significant impact in America by, see textbook page 519. Okay, so there's a template if you need it. And then finally, essay checklist. Is your essay 4 paragraphs? Are your paragraphs indented? Did you follow the guidelines provided to organize your essay? Did you use transition words? Resource provided in Schoology? And did you check for spelling, capitalization, and punctuation mistakes? Okay. So again, most important thing is choose one of the prompts. Please do not write about all of them. And make sure that whichever one you choose, that you follow the essay organization for that prompt. Okay, thank you, and I hope this video helped.